Hey everybody, welcome to Absolute Comics. I'm Sal, and with me today is Dan. Dan, from Comic Storian, man. What's going on, Dan? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. A little nervous, I won't lie, but I'm excited for talking about this.
Nervous. You've always been here, Dan. You've always been with us. Because,
this is true.
Dan, this is the face. There's no way you're not watching Comic Storian, but the fact is, this is the face of the voice you'll hear occasionally when we're talking to people off camera going like, hey, please help us. This is the man.
Yeah, pretty much. The clickety-clacking behind the scenes, you're welcome. I don't usually find stuff, but when I do, I help you guys.
Oh, man. That's true. We got a slurry of topics here, which is all thanks to the efforts of Dan and his research. And let me tell you something. You had your work cut out for you this week.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because it's like the comic book industry and the movie industry. They don't know that we have money to make. We have work to do here, ladies and gentlemen. You gotta give us something. You can't be taking a picture of a clapperboard from Batman and expect that to carry us for the week. No, we need a leak. We need an image of Colin Farrell with a monocle. We need something.
Give us the new Batman suit already. Come on.
Right? Tease it. Maybe silhouette it. How about a Batmobile? Maybe just a tire. Enough for us to make our living off the backs of your living. Please. Even the comic book industry is just like, I don't know. Well, here's this. I mean, there's some fun stuff, and I'm actually really impressed because all of our stuff that we're talking about here is all comics.
Yes.
Non-stop comics. It's comics for days, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm really excited to jump into them.
Pretty good ones, actually. For a small chunk, this one would be a quality over quantity kind of episode.
That's right. Big time. Because, there's we know very little about any of the movies coming up. Birds of Prey, not out yet. There was a premiere for some of the actors. I know that Ewan McGregor addressed a couple of questions that were not really taken seriously about him as Black Mask and Victor Zsasz and whether or not they're in a relationship. I don't really see Victor Zsasz as being a sexual character.
Oh, no. Definitely not. I don't feel like either of them really are. No, Black Mask a little bit, but...
Black Mask maybe before the horrible scarring. But similarly, I don't know. But the questioner was like, hey, I noticed that Victor Zsasz and Black Mask work together. Maybe they're also sleeping together? And Ewan's like, who cares? Okay, yeah.
I just love that that's the reasoning. They're like, well, they work together. And it's like, I'm pretty sure a lot of men work together all over the world, and they're still straight. But
yeah, they're not all sleeping together. I mean, presumably.
Or are they?
But that you know what that is? That's an indication as to how slow things are right now.
Yes.
Hey, do you think that these very, very low-tier supervillains in this spin-off DCEU movie are gay? I don't know, man. Sure.
And it's not even like they're huge villains in the Batman universe that, if they came out and they were like, hey, so the Joker is actually gay and is not in love with Harley, he just liked having someone that did whatever he said.
Right.
That would be something I'd be like, oh my God, I need to find out what's going on with that.
That's true. If in the comics and in the movies, or if the movies influence the comics, they're like, oh no, big status quo shift, Black Mask and Victor Zsasz are gay. It'd be like, all right, well, that really doesn't change much about the characters. I don't really care. Victor Zsasz still kills people and then cuts a scar into his flesh to denote that kill, right? That's all I really know about Victor Zsasz. That's really all that you need. You want to make him gay too? All right.
Plus, they're villains that just don't show up that frequently either. I think.
No.
When was the last time Zsasz was in a comic?
Right.
Because I just think Injustice. That's the only one I can think of. But
right. I couldn't tell you the last time I actually saw Victor Zsasz in a comic book, though I'm sure they've used him. I feel like there's no stone unturned in Tynan's run on Detective. Mm-hmm. But again, I have not seen Zsasz anywhere. I actually would be more interested in if Black Mask were gay. Wouldn't it be funny if Sionis was not funny, but more interesting if Sionis was as it turns out, I'm actually closeted. I'm a closeted homosexual. That'd be kind of cool.
It's
if you want to explore that character.
Right. If they're like, this is actually why I've been killing people, because I wanted to hide it from myself.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then you find out like there's a ton of torrid love affairs that he's ended with murder just to keep his secret. The mask is my heterosexuality. Like, that's the mask. Like, it's a metaphorical mask. And then he takes off the mask and he's maskless and he's black mask, no mask, but he's gay. At the very least, that's something. As opposed to just being like, I don't know. Yeah, right? I read that issue.
Yeah.
But again, not headlines.
No.
It's just not enough. But we actually have some real headlines here, some real comic book stuff. Most recently in Batman Superman number 6, you're cutting right to the chase. The last page reveals,
Yes.
so spoilers here on out for the books that came out this past week because there's a lot of stuff coming out. But at the end of Batman Superman 6, we are shown that in true Batman Superman comic book crossover fashion, there's going to be a supervillain team up or battle between Ra's al Ghul and General Zod.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be a battle between them for like the rights to who can use the Lazarus Pit or something.
Yeah, it appears that Zod has plans for the Lazarus Pit, and I think they're entering into like a game of chance. And if Zod wins, he'll take the Lazarus Pits and use them for his own nefarious purposes. Which, by the way, he doesn't bury the lead. We know what he wants to use the Lazarus Pits for: resurrecting Kandor.
Yeah,
I think that's a really clever notion, though it does remind me a little bit of back when they did that like 100-second war or whatever, when Kandor like got big and then Zod ruled Kandor and New Krypton. There was a whole story arc about Kandor kind of like coming back into existence. But this idea of like zombie Kandorians, I'm interested.
Right. I think it would be cool to see if they address how different the Lazarus Pit bringing people back would be compared to the regeneration matrix, or I don't remember the actual name, but whatever brings Superman back at
people.
the yes.
Oh,
exactly.
The healing. You're talking about the Kryptonian healing coma matrix.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's essentially the same.
It is, although I think that what's it called? Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, so we know that Kryptonian physiology is different from humanity, that when they die, they're not really dead, necessarily. Mm-hmm. They go into a sleeping coma that can be revived if you have enough time and Kryptonian tech. Mm-hmm. Clearly, the statute of limitations has passed, and they're dead. But Lazarus Pit, hey, the other question is, does the Lazarus Pit work differently on Kryptonians versus humans?
That would be a cool one. That would be cool.
There's no way that Williamson isn't going to do that, because like otherwise what's the point? He's definitely going to resurrect at least a couple of characters, which is cool. I love the idea of Ghul Al Ghul versus Zod, because you'd think, the reality is if Ra's al Ghul looked at Zod and said like, I don't think I'm going to let you use my Lazarus Pits. Mind you, they're in a Lazarus Pit cave when they're having this conversation.
Right. It's not a secret of where it is.
Yeah, and Zod goes, I'm thinking I'm just going to use this one, and then just super speeds into Ra's al Ghul at the speed of, let's say, a plane, and then just hits him as hard as a Mack truck. Then you just got Ra's al Ghul goo everywhere. Right. Ra's al Ghul, if you will. But yeah, I love this idea, and I want to see that fight. I want to see that that pairing.
Yeah, I'm very curious how they'll do the fight, because I feel like it'll be so similar to every time that Superman has fought Batman, but we are now getting it with someone that does not hold back, and I'm very curious how Ra's will hold up against Zod.
I love that idea. That's actually a really brilliant parallel. I'm glad you brought that up. The idea of everyone's seen Batman versus Superman. Al Ghul versus Zod is basically another Batman versus Superman fight. It's a skilled, weapons master and martial artist versus, but still, albeit human, versus a Kryptonian Superman. Yeah, that's a really cool match, and it'll be really neat to see an unhinged version of Batman versus an unhinged version of Superman, and see how they pull out all the stops. Does Ra's al Ghul have kryptonite? Will it work? What if has he synthesized kryptonite and put it into the Lazarus Pits? Has he laced the Lazarus Pits with kryptonite, and that's his big surprise? Jump in. And then they do, and it's like, I've poisoned you.
That would be a cool idea if that's like his safety mechanism to make sure like Superman, or in this case Zod, would never be able to revive. That would actually be pretty cool.
Yeah, I love this matchup. How are you enjoying the the Batman Superman book by Williamson? Because I feel like it's one of the better depictions of both characters currently coming out right now.
I fully agree. I feel like, I mean, I fell off of the Bendis Superman quite a while ago, just because it was not great. And kind of the same with Tom King's Batman. And the Batman Superman, I liked it because it at least gave me those characters during a time that I was not reading their main books and kind of slowly forgetting about them a little bit. But I like it, and I like that the main villain, at least in this first arc, was the Batman Who Laughs. So they're really keeping that going and truly putting that into multiple comics instead of just, hey, it's just in this, considering what the Batman Who Laughs did in this comic. Yeah. Which I'm curious how that's going to affect the entire DC universe.
Yeah, you could tell they're definitely setting that up because they went from, I mean, because this whole series dovetailed from the Snyder Jock Batman Who Laughs book miniseries. Like literally that book ends and then this series picks up and it's the rest of the story. It goes from the Batman Who Laughs being kind of like a multiversal threat down on to being a Batman villain and then right into being a singular threat against the DC universe. Like he's actually actively attacking. Like Blue Beetle has a vested interest in defeating the Batman Who Laughs. Wonder Woman has a personal stake in the Batman Who Laughs now. So he goes from being like, it wouldn't be a surprise to see him show up in any of their books, in a Superman book, a Wonder Woman book.
Right.
It wouldn't surprise anybody to see Batman Who Laughs become a major DC power player. I myself am kind of sick of the Batman Who Laughs at this point, but I recognize his markability, and I'm excited to see him pitted against those other characters. Maybe it's just that, like, oh, evil Batman, whatever, but like evil Batman versus another DC character within their own book, so they can't necessarily lose. No, I'm interested. I'm like, oh, okay, you found a fresh take on that character, made him a little less stale. It's a good book. I like it. Williamson really gets character in the DC universe. He really, like, you know, people kind of discount him as a Flash writer, but like, dude gets Batman, he gets Superman, and thanks to issues 1 through 6 of Superman or Batman Superman, I'm so used to saying Superman Batman. But from issue 1 through 6, you see other characters and they are given, you know, their due. It's not just like, oh, it's a Batman Superman crossover book, so they're going to be awesome and everyone else is going to be secondary. No, he goes, well, these characters all have dignity and self-respect and their own fans. They're cool. Let's bring them up to that level. So it's like every time they show up, you're like, oh, cool. And Wonder Woman is great. She has a great moment in this issue. Actually.
Oh, definitely.
How cool she is.
I really like what they did to Wonder Woman in this, because you definitely had that feeling of it's the Trinity. Where is she? Why are they not including her? What really goes on in that relationship? And you really see how she feels about it and how she's truly hurt that they did not tell her. Yeah,
I'm surprised they didn't, and I'm impressed that they carried it over. I mean, like that's the strength of one writer who's keeping the story focused in his own book, where it's like, no, like it would be something that Wonder Woman would take personally, and it would be a question that needs answering. Why didn't you include me? And it's like, well, because your name's not on the title. But you know, in the story,
we only had so much space, and we didn't want to put 3 names as a whole thing.
And we already had a Trinity book, and it didn't really do very well, so let's not worry about it. But no, I'm digging it, and I like Williamson. He does a good job, and also, of course, I was talking about this book the other day, and Tiffany, my wife and partner in crime, saw the art, and she's like, "Oh my God, the art in this is amazing." I'm like, "Yes, that's because it's done by David Marquez."
Yes, it just works so well. I will say there are at times it feels a little too friendly of an art for the story it's telling, but at the same time, it's so easy on the eyes that you could get into the story just for the art.
everyone is beautiful when they are depicted by David Marquez. Like,
Yeah.
back, like, say what you will about Civil War II, it is a horrible book, but he drew that, and it is a gorge. Like, everyone in it
Yes.
is just breathtaking. Carol Danvers looks amazing in that book. Everybody is gorgeous. So I was really worried. I remember when they announced Marquez was going to do this book, and they said, "Oh, and the main villain is Batman Who Laughs." I'm like, he's not supposed to be pretty. Like,
Yeah.
he's grotesque. He's really good at depicting, like, the beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Will he carry that over? And I like his Batman Who Laughs. It's consistent, but I would rather see more grit, and you
Yes.
don't really get that too much in his art. But you do get like that beauty and that polish. I miss the color. Justin Ponzer used to color his work, and man, was he great! And it's really it's noticeably different,
Right.
when you get somebody else on it. By the way, respectable colors. I'm just saying it's not Justin
Yeah.
Ponzer. It's not there. It's not quite there. But otherwise, yeah, no, I dig this book, and I'm excited for the future. I want to see the League of Shadows versus Zod.
Yeah, I'm just curious how that's going to play out and how that's going to affect like everything, because that's like a kind of fight that you can't do and not have it be meaningful, like
Right.
throughout DC.
Yeah, that could be an event.
Yeah,
I would love it if it was like, because Zod, of course, he's trying to gain access to these Lazarus pits, at least presumably from the interaction they have. I love the idea of this kind of like, because Ra's al Ghul is he you never really know what he's up to because he's always working on some other angles. He's always working on multiple projects. So I love this idea that Zod is forced, because he's a general and he's a good fighter, but he knows strategy. I would love to see, like, almost like, I would hesitate to use the term, but like I would call it a shadow war, where it's like a secret war
Right.
between Ra's al Ghul and his forces and General Zod and his like influence.
Yeah.
And see, like, and where it's like the DC universe at large, because I can imagine either of them going, well, the fact is, I need to fight you, but I also really don't want to attract the attention of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, or anybody else. So how are we going to make our battle work and not get roped up in all their bullshit? Or how can we use them by manipulating them to suit our own ends? So it'd be really fun to see like a shadow war between Al Ghul and Zod. So it's like, it is an event and it is a major thing and it does have ramifications in the DC universe, but maybe like on the surface, everybody else is kind of unaware that they're being manipulated or that they're part of it.
which for the
That's
record,
my pitch, but yeah.
a Shadow War, it's a super cool name. I wouldn't even need to know what it was, and if I saw
No.
a comic by DC that was called the Shadow War, I would.
Yeah.
I mean, I would buy that instantly.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. I mean, ninjas and Zod, I mean, the ideas alone are endless. Like, jump on it, DC. Give us the Shadow War. You also mentioned Justice League and how it's heading into its new era with issue 41 because, of course, Scott Snyder's leaving the book after this.
Yeah.
What'd you think of Scott Snyder's run on Justice League?
I liked it. I thought Scott Snyder did a great job. I also enjoyed the James Tynan's like interludes kind of thing.
Yes.
I thought it was great pacing. Towards the end, it felt a little rushed. Like, it felt like he wanted a couple more issues, but I mean, the Year of the Villain, Hell Arisen was coming out, and he was like, crap, that's going to spoil the last couple issues. All right,
Right.
we'll move up the schedule. We'll get that taken care of. But I loved it. I thought it was actually one of my favorite depictions of the Justice League that I've seen in a while.
It's been a while since we've gotten proper Justice League, and I admire Snyder's desire to make every issue feel impactful and big and have so much, like, you're getting a real bang for your buck. I remember, like, kind of the origin of the Avengers, moreover, the origin of the Fantastic Four comes from literally Lee talking to retailers and comic book purchasers, retailers back then, of course, being newsstand sellers,
Right.
but comic book buyers being like, if I have the choice between Batman, Superman, and Justice League, I'm going to buy Justice League because for my 25 cents, I'm going to get those characters and more, or
Yeah.
at least more bang for my buck. And this is Snyder being like, I'm going to give you your money's worth. You're never going to feel like, oh, this is a throwaway issue. No issue in Justice League's run from Snyder beginning to end has been an issue that like wasn't necessary or didn't have some kind of impact.
Right.
But you still got those nice like character moments. You still got those like quiet moments that like Snyder didn't want to deliver on because you had time to step in and be like, okay, here's here's where Lex gets this idea, or here's how Joker, leaves. He quits the Legion of Doom. Like, let's see that whole thing happen.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Now, let me ask you this. You're an anime fan, right?
Oh, yes, I am. Definitely.
So that explains why you had no problem with the pacing, because this felt to me like Snyder's homage to Eastern anime storytelling, where like everything is just like it's all rising and falling, and it's just like whoa, whoa, whoa. Like just every issue was another episode of Dragon Ball Z, where it's like, well, Goku gets super powerful, and then he's gonna power up for this many issues, and then he fails because another more powerful person shows up. So what's he gonna do? He's gonna have to find out how to be more powerful. Like for me, I'm like, oh my god, if they have to power up again for like the umpteenth time, I'm gonna lose it. So I was like, it felt like Snyder was playing with tone and with storytelling. So for me, I'm like, this is not what I'm used to or expecting from a Justice League book, despite the fact that he's like, here's also everything. But it's cool. Like I respect the hell out of this run, because it's like he's swinging for the fences.
Oh yeah,
it's everything.
And I liked that he used characters that don't usually go to the forefront, like how he was using Martian Manhunter and Hawkwoman. Hawkwoman or Hawkgirl in this one?
I think it's Hawkgirl, but I'll take Hawkwoman because like I'm sure she'd rather be called that.
Well, see, I don't know, because in the Hawkman book, Hawkwoman has showed up, and she's trying to bring him back from being the Sky Tyrant. And so when that happened, and it's a very different version of the character, I was like, wait a second. Why are there two here right now? Like, they can't be the same because they look so different.
They're not. And no, they're not. Like, one is actually Thanagarian. Like, yeah, it's... I think that what's her name? Kendra is Hawkgirl.
Yes.
I think that's the idea. So yeah. But I love seeing Martian Manhunter being used and not being used as a plot device. Like, he's just a character in it. And Hawkgirl, we haven't gotten much of her at all since before Dark Knight's Metal, and then with Metal, they're like, here she is again. And so finally we get some more Hawkgirl, and it's like, it's great that we're actually getting a chance to delve into that character and highlight that, though there's no way he's not going to give you like fun Batman moments, cool Superman moments, great Wonder Woman moments. For me, it was about the villains. Like, he was just like, yo, I'm going to use Grodd, I'm going to use Cheetah, I'm going to show up, I'm going to try out Black Manta. Like, here are some characters. The Turtle was a plot device. You never get to see Turtle. Yeah. Like, that's neat. So yeah, he's definitely like just taken all the toys out of the toy box with this run.
I will say, really, if they get rid of Jarro, I'll be done. I'm like, that like, it was such a good little comedic relief to the story that still kind of worked, and I loved that they made that a character.
I love where you forget about him, and then here's a little Jarro for you.
I would love a miniseries of Batman and Robin, but it's Jarro as Robin. And it's just an entire story of Batman and Robin adventures told from the point of view of Jarro as Robin. Yeah.
At the very least, I'd like to see like an issue dedicated to how Batman raised Jarro. Mm-hmm. Because because Batman keeps Jarro kind of at arm's length throughout the entire series, but Jarro clearly has like unconditional love for Batman. Mm-hmm. So you imagine that like he didn't just keep Jarro in the cave, and feed him occasionally. Like, that Batman loved Jarro and took care of him. And I would love to see a kind of a glimpse into him rearing Jarro in a way that you never get to see Batman. Because you don't get to see Batman really interacting with like children. I don't consider Damian a child.
I would love to see Damian's reaction to how he treats Jarro.
Right? Yeah. How come you never hugged me, Father? You love Jarro. He's like, Jarro's a sensitive creature. You're a demon.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, but I'd like to see that. That'd be funny. Do you know who's taking over Justice League after this?
I do not, actually. I won't lie. I was not aware of the fact that it was changing writers.
Yeah, no. Snyder's been pretty vocal about it, where he's like, I'm leaving the book, I'm wrapping up. And I don't think he was strong-armed into doing it. I think he's just like, here's my story, I'm kind of done.
That's
But
fair.
yeah,
I mean, he told like a great story, and it did wrap up. Like it actually wrapped up. So
Yes.
I could see him being like, you know what? I'm not going to push it. I'm going to end on a high note, and I'll go do something else. And I mean, I'll read whatever that guy writes.
But my question is like, where the hell would he even be able to go from there? Like, well, I awoken up an eldritch god that created everything, and they fought her. You know, what am I going to do now? You know, have him fight like Reverse Flash or something? Like he wouldn't be able to do it. It would just feel really weird. So I don't blame him for leaving.
The next issue is 40, correct?
I think so. Or
It looks
39
like
or 40.
Yeah, so 40 is being written by Robert Venditti.
Okay, there you go.
So
yeah,
I
think he's
some
wrapping
hope.
up on 39.
Which
cool.
I do find it weird that 39's not out yet. They came out with Year of the Villain, Hell Arisen the same week as 38, and they're like, hey, by the way, we're telling you what's happening in 38 and 39. I hope you enjoy.
Hey. Well, they don't. You know, they do that all the time, and I just. That's just a question of like, it's all scheduling, and it's just like, well, this has to come out on this date because of this, and this has to come out because it has to trigger this, and this. And I'm thinking like 2 years in advance, so sorry, I'm going to spoil your book. They did the same thing with Secret Wars, where it's like, okay, that's the ending, thanks. But yeah, it shouldn't impact the story. It shouldn't change people's enjoyment of it at the very least.
Yeah.
I'm just more like, you're ending it on 39? You couldn't have squeezed one more issue out of this and rounded it out at 40?
He was probably like, you know what? This is going to mess with so many people. This is going to be great.
It's going to really mess people's OCD big time. I think I'm excited to see where he goes from here. Like, what will Snyder choose to do? Like, and I don't really know. Like, will he stay at DC? Will he go to Marvel? Like, if he's still got a longer contract, like, what will he do? You know, will it be more Black Label stuff? Will it be horror? Will he try to like do some Image kind of stuff, but for Black Label or for the Hill House books? I don't know. I'd like to see it.
That would be cool.
Yeah. But we do know that Venditti is going to move that into an Eradicator story.
Yes.
Which includes an army of enhanced Daxamites.
Yeah, so I'll let you explain what Daxamites are, because I mean, I definitely, obviously know, but I'll let you explain them a little bit, because
Daxamites, as I recall, and I'm just checking my notes here, but they are basically like Kryptonian cousins. I believe Mon-El is a Daxamite.
Okay.
But they're basically like, and they, you know, similarly, they were in the same solar system as the Kryptonians, I think, and like the idea was that, you know how like Superman can't see through lead? Well, if a Daxamite comes in contact with lead, it basically gives them space cancer.
Interesting. So they're just neighboring planets, essentially.
Yes. Yeah, they're basically just, and they're humanoid, and they look just like Kryptonians or people. Like, they're just Kryptonians. But the lead thing is a real issue, which is why we're not inundated with Daxamites. Because, like, there's lead in everything.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah,
throw paint on
Mon-El was a member of the Legion of Superheroes, and he was a Daxamite. I remember, like, there was a big, stupid, terrible DC event in the late 80s that was partially drawn by Todd McFarlane called Invasion, which also included the Daxamites, and brought them into, like, kind of like the post-crisis continuity.
Okay.
But basically it's just, hey, how about this race of supermen, and also you could probably easily kill them. Like, you could shoot them and they'll just die.
Did you see any of the preview panels by any chance?
No, I saw an image of Eradicator, which we're using like Gleason's art, and it's just going to look like, it's just going to look like Eradicator. But the Eradicator from DC Rebirth, who's like more silhouetted, no face. It's kind of like this horrible, like, thing. But he still has the awesome shades and
right. Yeah, I mean, you can't lose the shades. That's part of the character.
That's part of it.
It makes the Eradicator the Eradicator. First off, the panels that they did show is literally just the Eradicator and the Daxamites just wiping out the Justice League. Like, it's pretty cool. I'm wondering if the enhancement is going to be the removal of the lead weakness.
I mean, that has to be, or at the very least, some kind of like block on their weakness. I don't know, because it's like, so you're genetically weak to lead. Like, we could probably figure out something about that. Like, we could probably fix that. I don't know, but it's cool. It's a great idea. It's a way to up the ante and give you something you've never seen, because Snyder didn't do anything like that.
Yeah.
Also, it's fun because, like, Eradicator's whole thing, his whole shtick, so to speak, was that he is protecting, like, Kryptonians and the Kryptonian bloodline. And, you know, we saw him kind of get his when he was trying to destroy John, because he is impure and he's made from human DNA and stuff. I love the idea that he's like, okay, you know what? Like, screw Kryptonians. I'll protect this other bloodline that's similar to Kryptonians. Like, it's, for him, he's like, it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, I also have to remove their lead weakness.
I got to remove the one that's pretty much everywhere at this point. I wonder if they might pseudo tie this in to Zod as well.
Right.
Because he's there for Kryptonians. If Zod wins the war against Ra's al Ghul, comes in, becomes the new leader of, like, the Eradicator and the Daxamites.
Yeah.
I mean, cool stuff could happen. Cool stuff could happen.
With Kandor dead, I mean, obviously, I doubt Zod's going to beat Al Ghul and resurrect all these Kandorians. I mean, like, Rogolzar squished them or something. So I don't know. But I love the idea that Zod's like, screw it, I'll take the Daxamites, that's fine. Plus, they're all regular sized. I think that's great. Also, by the way, just as an added bonus for the series, if you haven't already picked it up, or if you haven't already planned on picking it up, Brian Hitch is doing the cover art, which is pretty cool. Not the interiors, but the cover art, which I think is more exciting, because I think the art gets away from him.
Right.
He loses detail, and it gets a little muddy, but, like, when you just give Hitch something cool to draw one time, it's like he'll knock it out of the park.
Oh yeah.
The rest of it's by Aaron Lopresti and Matt Ryan. So that's cool.
Yeah, I don't recognize those names, but
no, it's just serviceable, fun, adventure-ish, art. Just looks fun and cool. But I love that idea, man. You're thinking right in my wheelhouse here. The idea that Eradicator's like, screw it, Daxamites. Yeah, I'm in.
There's just so much potential, I feel.
Yeah.
Because they are the other benefit that they have is because they haven't been used in such a long time, not many people have a preconception,
like a working knowledge. Yeah, no one's gonna be like, I'm a huge Sodom Yacht fan, and I'm here to tell you that that's not how the Daxamites would act. Like, no, like, yeah, you can just do whatever.
Yeah, I feel like it's got a lot of potential. I'm really excited to see how they handle it.
Yeah. You were bringing up the Far Sector. We're on issue 3 of Green Lantern Far Sector, or I think it's just called Far Sector.
It's just called Far Sector. Have you been reading this one?
I read the first issue, and I was like, I'll pick this up later, and I just never did. This is a Young Animal book, right?
It is. So I picked up the first one because I've been wanting a Green Lantern story for a while, and I could not get onto the Grant Morrison one.
You're not alone.
Like when he fought God, I was like, I'm out. I'm done. But it's actually a really cool story because whenever we get Green Lanterns or whenever we have gotten Green Lanterns, it's almost always like a cosmic war or this big event throughout the entire universe that all the Green Lanterns have to do something about. And I like this one because essentially she's hired to actually work for the police as like a consultant kind of thing.
Yes.
Because the Far Sector, I'll just keep calling it that. I can't remember what the thing is actually called. It's like super far out, and like we don't deal with whatever these societies are that she's interacting with. Yeah, and so the past couple issues, like the first 2 issues, were a little slow because it really is just establishing these new races of beings, this emotion exploit, and the fact that some have emotions, some don't, and this issue was the one that finally action breaks out, and I'm so excited. Like this was one of those comics that I got to that page and I'm like, oh my god, no, it's the end of the comic, I can't do this.
I remember the first issue, it felt really long, and then the last page came and I'm like, oh, it's over? Like, I need the next issue, and I forgot about it. But like, the thing that got me to have to buy it was Jamal Campbell's art.
Oh, yeah. I was just about to mention that because the art is beautiful.
It's the same guy who did Naomi, which arguably was the best thing Bendis has worked on at DC.
Until he forcibly forced him into Young Justice. But that's a different story.
Well, no, I should say the best thing in Batman Universe for me was the best thing Bendis has worked on in DC. But Naomi was pretty close, and it has a lot to do with Campbell's art because it's just great. Like I can't stress how good the art is on that book and on Far Sector. And I feel bad because Campbell's like clearly got to like really stretch his muscles on this book because it's just a lot of crazy crap, and it's a lot of like after art effects. Like it's not just like, oh, I draw this. Like it's a lot of holograms and colors and and projections and stuff. So it's not so much about drawing faces as much as it is drawing like crazy aliens and this and technology.
Yeah, and he does such a great job of always making it very clear where the focus is, but still making everything easy to know what's going on. And it was just perfect. But I had to include Far Sector on this because if you read it and you get to the last couple pages, I actually would recommend waiting till 4 comes out because I feel like it's such a no, I need the next one right now.
Yes, no, it's true. I love it because you wanted to focus on the fact that it's like instead of it being about a cosmic war, we're more focusing on the political stance. Like we're dealing with her being like a peacekeeper / negotiator.
She truly is a space cop, which is what they're supposed to be.
Well, and she has her own personality, and it's very much in contrast to the race of beings that she's working with. And you could tell what's great is like it's very Star Trek, but it's not quite as superficial. Like we know we don't have to wrap it up in 20 minutes. Like we have plenty of issues to go. And so as a result, like we get inklings of how society works on this Far Sector world and how there are players within it who are not what they seem or they're disingenuous. And there's some people who are like, who believe in what they're talking about. It's very interesting. And she's a human being dealing with all of it. And they're looking at her like, hey, listen, well, you're the police, like you're the authority, but at the same time, they're also like, crap, the fuzz is here. How are we going to like hide it from her? So there's a lot going on. It's a really clever book. It's more clever than I think they could. The reason why it's a Young Animal book, because I think most Young Animal books are dead at this point. I mean, like Doom Patrol. When are we going to see more of that? Well, Gerard Way isn't even writing it anymore.
That'll only come back once the show comes back. I mean, otherwise, people always just forget about the Doom Patrol.
It's true. But, you got Doom Patrol on Young Animal. You had Mother Panic. I don't think that book's ever going to come back. No. And more.
Yeah.
Whereas I think they were like, this is kind of too... I don't know. It's too on the nose. It's too esoteric for your average Green Lantern reader. Let's stick another label on it and put it out and put it far away. Although she does drop the MFer line in this most recent issue.
I actually won't lie.
Dope.
The fact that they didn't censor it added so much more oomph that I didn't realize that I was missing from when they do censor that, and like it just really hypes you up. You're like, oh my god, like it's done. What?
Yeah, no, it's funny when you read comics all the time, like you're conditioned to fill in the blanks whenever you see like a blurred out word or a censored word. But when you see the word, it immediately changes for you because you've read the word, you've read it in your mind, you know what the word was. But then you go back a second, and you go, wait, did I just see it?
Yes.
Wait, did they actually say it?
That's exactly what I did. I was like, wait, hold the phone. Did they?
Yep.
They definitely did it. They definitely did it.
And by the way, it's still a great Green Lantern story. It's still like it works for everybody. There's nothing like really overt or grotesque or sexual about this book. So like anyone could read it. It's just the language, and it's like, hey, look at that. The world didn't turn inside out. Dogs and cats are not living together. It's not mass hysteria out here. Like maybe we could probably ease up on this whole censorship thing.
Right. Another thing I do like about the story as well is that she she's not overly using the lantern ring, making constructs. Like, she's only using it in very specific spots, but she is using it enough that you're like, okay, she is a Green Lantern, but not like Jon Stewart, who builds buildings and armies and does everything with constructs at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Although I think that if you're reading a Green Lantern book, you expect to get some constructs.
Exactly.
But the other thing is, it's not called Green Lantern anything. It's just called Far Sector. So it's like, it's about a Green Lantern, but this is a very different Green Lantern. The outfit's different, the attitude's different, it could be in a different universe. This could have literally been like Green Lantern Earth 1 Volume 2. Mm-hmm. Where it's just like, so Hal got this person and she's doing her thing. And it's just something totally different. But I think she is definitely in the universe. I think we're going to fold her in later.
I wonder if they're going to do, because I believe, I could be wrong, but if my memory serves me correct, in Justice League, they explained that Starro's planet was pseudo outside the universe. I can't remember if I'm remembering that correctly, but I feel like they said something about where it was. And I feel like they could do that with the Far Sector because of the fact that she never names it. She's like, we're so far out that we just call it the Far Sector at this point.
Exactly. I love that idea. I would love to see more of this concept because, like you said, there are other areas that are supposed to be outside of DC's like multiverse continuity, like New Genesis and Apocalypse. Those are supposed to be their own things. Like crises don't touch them. They're like they just exist. Of course, they're nothing but affected by crises now, but so that's out the window. But I would love to see like a Green Lantern try to like solve a crime on New Genesis or something. Like it'd be like that whole idea of seeing a Green Lantern out of their depth and like in a place that they're unwelcome.
Yeah.
But are technically supposed to be in charge of. I love that idea.
God, why haven't they done that? That would be a fantastic story. Like a Green Lantern that has to try and police gods. Like, that's a perfect story.
Yeah, just murder on New Genesis. It's just like Murder on the Orient Express, but it's New Genesis. And just Highfather is like, he thinks he's being magnanimous, and then it's just clearly he's mad. Like he doesn't want them to be there. And, like you got Orion who's like, finally, we've got some law and order up in this thing. Like let's start busting some heads. I'm the bad cop. You're the good cop.
Right.
You got a lot of story there. But Far Sector, I'm so glad you brought it up because it is a great book.
It is. I can't get over the art as well. I have to mention it the second time because it's just such a beautiful book. So beautiful.
Yeah. Then we get into The Flash. I love how you call it Barry Goes Super Saiyan as The Flash, showing how insanely powerful The Flash can be, but how unpredictable and irrational and violent he can become. I mean, like, for me, that does not sound like Barry Allen. So you're going to have to walk me through this. Like, how is it that Barry Allen has become unhinged?
So essentially in this previous Flash arc, I mostly read a review because I haven't been reading The Flash, and then I saw this news and I was like, all right, I'm going to go back and read this when I get the chance. But so the Speed Force is very unstable right now, and the Flash essentially like kind of fuses it with himself. If you get a chance, click that link. I'll put it in chat for people. But he goes Super Saiyan. He straight up like turns gold and starts,
his hair's on fire
and just starts beating the crap out of Captain Cold to the point that Golden Glider's just like, Flash, stop, you're going to kill him. And like the Flash, she eventually does stop him, and the Flash is like, what did I just do? Like that wasn't me. I don't know if I'm capable of using the Speed Force. And it was almost like an extreme version of what they did back with Wally when he first came back, of like how if he touched others, or not Wally, when he goes negative Flash, and like he would interact and kind of explode if he didn't do it properly.
In Flash Rebirth,
Yes. And then I feel like this is just, they were like, I like that idea. Let's go one step further.
Yeah, and there's a precedent for it because because they've made up a bunch of stuff with the Speed Force now, and how like Wally, spoilers for Heroes in Crisis, but Wally kills a bunch of people using the Speed Force. It just completely loses like his control over it, which I didn't know / think that was a thing the Speed Force could do.
Right.
Like you could just freak out while also using the Speed Force, and it will just kill people. So this is a decent kind of house cleaning where they're like, no, Speed Force is broken or something's going on with it. But Wally was a good indication of the Speed Force. There's something going wrong with it, and Barry's gonna have to fix it or something. I don't know, but like it's making him crazy.
Yeah,
that's a cool idea at the very least, like because it's not just abandoning it. It's not like, yeah, no, Wally, he's just a bad Flash. He's just very bad at being the Flash. I think we can all agree that nobody likes Wally West. He's really bad at being the Flash. Like, so no one would cotton to that idea. So let's just say it's the Speed Force's fault.
Yeah, and the thing that I do like about it as well is it's not being just contained in the Flash, because they do reference it in the preview for the next Justice League. They're like, Superman, they can't handle it. The Flash, he has no idea what the Speed Force is doing and is very cautious because he doesn't want to go crazy and start murdering a bunch of people.
Right, exactly.
I bet that's actually why they made him yellow, was to kind of eventually he'll make a reverse Flash connection of like, oh, I'm yellow, he's yellow. Am I becoming evil?
Right? They could be going that direction. Hell, like, I remember hearing rumors, and I don't know, I've kind of really fallen off Flash lately, but like I remember hearing rumors that they were going to stick Wally on the Suicide Squad. And
that would be cool because I'm not sure if you read Suicide Squad, the one Tom Taylor's writing. I think it's Tom Taylor. But it's like a whole new status quo. Like Amanda Waller is out, and like that. Removing her just removes so many boundaries that were pre-existing that he can now do whatever he wants. And I'm just excited. And that would be very cool if he brought Wally West into the Suicide Squad.
I mean, he's got to work out of his debt somehow. He still killed all those people. But I would love to see, if they were going to do that and carry it over and really play with the Reverse Flash theming. If they're like, welcome to the Suicide Squad. Here's your new costume.
Oh,
and it's like a Kid Flash, Wally West version of Thawne's costume.
Oh,
like I think it'd be kind of cool.
That would be cool.
I don't like what they've done with him, and I don't agree with that idea. But if you're gonna have to do it, do that with it. Mm-hmm. Just embrace Wally's darker side.
Yeah, that would be cool. Or if they put him in Daniel West, I believe.
Oh yeah.
And like puts him in that too. Because let's be honest, they would have to somehow make it not seem like the normal Flash.
Exactly.
Because that would just affect the entire universe as a whole. Yep. And it would be really cool to give him the Daniel West suit and then eventually have an interaction between Wallace West and Wally West of like, wait, hold the phone. Like, you're wearing my dad's costume, who was a villain, but you're saying you're a good guy? Like, what's the deal, Wally?
Yeah. They could also, as a result of his actions and the Speed Force, they could kind of like dial back the... Because if you put a Flash in the Suicide Squad, well, you can fire everybody on the squad. You just need Flash.
Right.
But B, he's like, you could kind of penance him, where it's like, I'm afraid to use my powers too much because otherwise I might freak out and kill my entire team, or I might kill like the world or create Flashpoint. Like, so yeah, that'd be kind of cool. That's actually story there. There's a story there.
There's a lot of potential if they do put him on the Suicide Squad, and the fact that it's Tom Taylor writing anything I'll read, but Tom Taylor whenever he gets to kill people is even better.
Right. Well, particularly if he has his own universe to do it in, because then he's just like, well, I'm just going to do anything. And what's great is it's never like grotesque or egregious. It's always just like in keeping with the character and being really cool. Like I'm just really, really, I'm always quick to trust Tom Taylor and his judgment.
Yeah, definitely. And I wonder if they're actually giving him the Suicide Squad so that he can finally start doing that stuff, because like you said, he does it usually in alternate universes, and maybe this is their way of going, you know what, let's try and squeeze that into the main universe. Let's see what Tom Taylor can do with that kind of stuff, especially if they do use Wally West. Like, I mean, imagine if he has Wally West on the Suicide Squad, he runs in and he does accidentally kill a villain, because then Wally's now in a state of, no, I shouldn't be killing, but it was a villain. And then like Barry is a part of this, and he's like, dude, doesn't matter. And like you get like this so much potential.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Moving into different publishers, you read Amazing Spider-Man 38, I assume, in which J. Jonah Jameson reveals that he was the originator of clickbait, and he gets like solicited into helping this new BuzzFeed company that's headed up by Nora Winters, and he essentially is still on his like Jameson quest of helping out Spider-Man, and of course, the more he helps, the more he hurts, and basically contributes to making Spider-Man's life more frustrating, despite him taking an active role in trying to make it better.
Right. So my concern with this is I'm wondering if they're beating a dead horse right now with the whole Jameson knows he's trying to help, but he hurt, and he's trying to help, but he hurt.
Yeah.
And it's like, are they going to do something different, or is this just going to be the exact same thing?
That's the thing. I am right there with you in terms of like, if you're gonna turn Jameson into a trope, or you're gonna make him into like a character who only does these three things, then like for me, it's been the longest full circle for Jameson I've ever seen, where like really every time that like they give, I mean, when Jameson was on the Fact Channel, when Jameson was working for, I think, Frontline, when Jameson was the mayor, like you've done all these different things with Jameson. Like the one thing we haven't seen Jameson do in a long time, like over a decade, is be a newspaper publisher.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we are so close to just having Jameson get back in the chair and take over the Daily Bugle again.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm just waiting for that day, because number one, I know it's coming, and number two, I can't wait for it to happen. And we've seen, in fact, we've seen different books where the Daily Bugle has been like, an anti-Spider-Man book and a a newspaper, or a pro-Spider-Man newspaper, and how both of those present their own different problems for Spider-Man. I know we're getting there at this point, but like, this whole Jameson knows who Peter Parker is, and he's trying to help him, and every time he tries, like, it's like they're saying, you remember that? Okay, let's use an example that we both enjoy. Avatar: The Last Airbender. When the show starts to end, Zuko's like, I'm a good guy now, and he tries to be good, and he's failing miserably at it.
Right.
Like, and he's starting to question whether or not his journey was worth it, where he's like, maybe I'm just better at being evil. Like, maybe that's just who I am. And when I try to be good, it's against my inner nature, and it causes me to fail.
Right.
Jameson, I think, is in a similar boat, where it's like, Jameson isn't trying to help Peter Parker because he thinks that Peter Parker is a good person, and he's doing it because he's compelled to do it as a person. It's more he's trying to wipe away a debt. And now, I don't think he's actively saying that or thinking it in the book, but it's like, that's clearly where he is in it. He's dealing with grief and guilt, and that's not enough for you to change who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And so
I think like that's a great comparison of Zuko to him, because it actually gives, like, it's a great way for me to mention how I feel about it, is that with Zuko, I felt like there was actually progression. Like, exactly. he was dealing with that, but he was adapting. He was becoming better at it. Like, he was still failing.
At the core, no matter what, Zuko was a good... Like, Zuko did bad things, but he was the reason he has the scar in the first place is because he was questioning his father's orders about putting his own men in harm's way. Like, Zuko, in his soul, is a good person.
Yeah.
And I believe that Jameson may actually be a good person deep down. There's a great issue from like Operation Zero Tolerance of X-Men, where where Bastion is trying to force Jameson into writing like libelous stuff about mutants and the X-Men, and he's like, this is right up your alley, because like that's what you do. And Jameson is like, get out of my office, you racist jackass, because that's not what I do. Like, I have a problem with Spider-Man, but I don't have a problem with a group of people marginalized because of who they are. Like, and that's Jameson for me. Jameson is a newsman who believes in facts and truth, and when he has an agenda, that's when you know it doesn't really work. Like his Spider-Man crusade, that is felonious, and you can see it because he doesn't really truly believe it.
Yeah.
Right?
And
So, like, that, yeah.
It's just he's just reached to this point that he is on that crusade, but it's just he's at this same level. Like
That's right.
They're not going, hey, he's actually getting a little better at it, or oh, he's moving a little towards his older nature. No, it's just he's trying to help, but he's not, and he's trying to help.
Yeah, he just constantly accidentally like drops banana peels in Spider-Man's path, and it's like that was funny when you first did that.
Yes,
maybe, but now it's time to do something interesting with this character again, and I think that like we're in this holding pattern with J. Jonah Jameson where it's like we need him to recognize this whole pro Spider-Man thing is as empty, hollow, and meaningless as my anti-Spider-Man thing. Like, you need to find meaning in your life, and it shouldn't involve it shouldn't involve having an agenda against Spider-Man. Like, everyone who loved Jameson, Robbie Robertson, his wife, like, they all said, like, you gotta give up the Spider-Man thing. And they're not saying, like, you gotta go easy on him. They're just like, this is the unhealthy problem you have. Mm-hmm. And so with Jameson and this direction, like, for me, I was actually kind of excited because the tease for the next issue is that beautiful cover that I really enjoy of Jameson and Peter facing off against each other with a microphone. Right. And he's just spitting on Peter's face. And it's like really grotesque, but it's amazing because for me, I'm like, maybe Spencer is actually going to bring it to a head. Like, he's finally going to like address the elephant in the room and be like, let's just get the new status quo for Jameson, or bring back the old status quo, but like do something with this character.
Right.
Because whatever this is, it's a holding pattern. It's just Zuko constantly like falling on his face and going, why am I so bad at being good? Like, because of course, like he needs to find out that like you're doing it, it's all superficial. You're not doing any change, you know? So with Jameson, it's all superficial. You got to get in there. You got to get into that character.
I feel like I was honestly hoping he was going to accept the job at Threats and Menaces, and like, I felt like he could have had a lot of stuff because he still could have helped Spider-Man by doing this and trying to steer it towards other people, other heroes, like kind of steer it away in that sense of helping, of keeping Spider-Man out of the news. And it would have been a new adjustment, kind of going back to where he was, but still he's on like trying to be a good guy in terms of Spider-Man.
Yeah, you see, like Nora Winters is kind of like the devil on Jameson's shoulder, where she's like, he robbed a bank. You've written this article before. Like, do it. You know, just be you again. And he's like, no. And I think that Spencer's good enough of a writer to go, like, to recognize, he is going to. Like, he will address the whole, like, I want to do that. It is part of my nature, but I have I have the facts now, and so I can't do that. And that's cool, but follow that, you know? This whole Spencer run has kind of just been like a series of interesting ideas that are never paid off. It was just like, here's a really good idea, but I'm not going to take the time to really get into it. And it's like, dude, Spider-Man fans, they're going to buy the book. Yeah. You could spend like a 6-issue arc if you just throw in Shocker, Mysterio, some throwaway villain who like has a dumbass plot that involves a warehouse and a jewel, and that being the big problem, like the Spider-Man problem, but there's always two plots. There's a Peter Parker plot and a Spider-Man plot. And you can throw away the crappy Spider-Man plot. Like, you can kind of phone it in is what I'm saying. But like, and then really make the meat and potatoes about Jameson and putting him from here to here. Like, and I think that with Spencer, I think he and Marvel are afraid that like we can't tell Spider-Man stories like that anymore. And I'm here to tell you, Spider-Man fans, it's all about like self-insertion, wish fulfillment. Like, they want to be Spider-Man in these adventures. They want to read about that, and they care. These are their stories. They're soaps. So like, Spider-Man fans, like maybe if you're reading, I don't know, like a Venom book, although Cates has been made Eddie Brock actually deep and interesting. Yeah. So I'm trying to think of like a character that's kind of superficial that doesn't really get into it, but like it doesn't really matter. Like just tell the story and take as long as you need, because the readers will buy it. Yeah.
I mean, exactly, like just make a good story
and finish it.
Like, yes. And finish it. That is the key part.
Because don't just like give me ideas. Who's Kindred? Well, we'll find out in 16 issues. Screw you. How about now?
I
Just tell the story.
Yeah, I don't know why they're like belaying that so much, because he did such a good job of making me go, who is this character? Like,
Yeah.
what is going on? And then it was like, no, he's not a big deal. And it's like, hold the phone. He's like manipulating the mayor. He's manipulating a bunch of people. We saw, I actually, you know what? I just thought of it. I have a feeling he'll be coming back after The Amazing Mary Jane has finished, because of the vision that Peter had of Kindred over her dead body. Yep. I wonder if that'll be once she's finally back from her solo series and they'll bring him back. I completely forgot about that he had that vision during, I want to say, Hunted.
Right. It had to have been during Hunted or whatever that was called. Because, because that was the last time we got any real character progression.
Yeah.
Then the rest of it's all been like Absolute Carnage and 2099. And it's like, come on. Speaking of Spider-Man, going back to DC Comics.
Yeah. Most of the stuff
Young
was
Justice,
DC this year, or this week.
Right? Well, not only that, like you saw the preview, I guess, of like Kate's killing the entire DC universe.
Wait, what?
Oh, have you not seen that?
Oh my gosh.
It's incredible. Yeah. No, I think it's in the beginning of his. I'm trying to think of what run it was. Oh, it was in Thor. It was in his Thor run. He introduces this like new threat, more or less, and he says like, on a different world that's not too dissimilar from our own, like things happened, the world's ending, and some champions came. One's a red streak, another one's a dark a dark shadow, the other one's a green blur, and the other one's a red lightning bolt, and like they go and they're gonna try and deal with it as they always have, but at the end of the day, what's going to happen to them is the same thing that happened to everybody on the street. They're going to beg for their gods and they're going to die.
Okay, I'm very excited for that, because Donny Cates, he's kind of like Tom Taylor. When he gets to be violent, he does such a great job.
Yeah, exactly. It's a cool idea, and it's funny how, and this is just speculation on my part. It's really, and it's not even speculation. It's more like just spitballing. But like, I think maybe because going back about 20 years. DC and Marvel had a big crossover. DC versus Marvel. It was terrible. But sales juggernaut, and it sold like gangbusters. So much so they made they made a card series spin-off of it. But DC versus Marvel, sales juggernaut. Everybody thought it was a great idea. The publishers met with each other in secret, and then sprung it on us. Like nobody knew it was coming.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that part about it.
Yeah, and they're literally like, we need to stick together because both of our sales are in the toilet, kind of like now. And I'm like wondering if, because I don't really credit Marvel or DC editors with an overabundance of time and credit,
right.
Where they're like, let's seed the DC Marvel crossover that's coming with all these little references, because they didn't do that before. But wouldn't it be interesting if like Kate's having Thor, having like the DC universe get destroyed in Thor, and everybody at DC being like, hey, Spider-Man's on the Young Justice or whatever through the Dial H for Hero series. And not our Spider-Man. We're literally going to make up our own Spider-Man.
Well, actually, I'm not sure if you saw the panel.
Oh, I saw the panel.
Yeah,
no, I'm just saying, like, it's not like neither Miles Morales nor Peter Parker show up. It's just there's a character who gets Spider-Man powers. He's web swinging. But the thing about his image is he looks just like Spider-Boy, the amalgam character of Superboy and Spider-Man. Like, from the head sock costume to the color scheme, he doesn't have the jacket, but we already have Superboy who's got the jacket. Like, we're not gonna.
Oh yeah.
So I'm thinking like, could all these little references, and of course the big bombshell, not really bombshell, but more, I always thought I called it a joke. But at the end of Doomsday Clock, the secret crisis in 10 years, like maybe all these things, little Easter eggs indicating maybe they're working together and they might do something again someday. There might be a crossover.
That I would like that, because it's one of those ones where I think everyone wants to see that. I think everyone wants one. You know what? Let's make it kind of like Injustice. Give it to Tom Taylor. Not like what the amalgam was, where it was whoever knocks the other one out first wins.
Oh, that sucked. Yeah, no. Do JLA Avengers, the Kurt Busiek series, where it's just these teams, universes. The thing, and make it its own thing. I love the idea of injusticing it, where it's like, maybe it's a weekly series, maybe it's digital only, but something where it's over there, it doesn't really affect either universe.
Mm-hmm. Because I feel like they would have to... That was my biggest problem with the previous one, was what they did to the Hulk. Of, Superman punched him into a mountain, he got knocked out, and that was it. I like bringing in the Immortal Hulk against some of the Justice League. Like, there's so much you could do there. Like,
oh, I know. Oh, and there is too much potential for crossovers. Like, you could do a DC Marvel, you could do a DC versus Marvel-esque crossover where, because it wasn't just DC versus Marvel, because they were working together, they were like, let's do the crossovers. So you got like Superman meets the Fantastic Four, the book. Yeah. You have 2 Daredevil Batman series, neither of them being very good. Like, what a sin! Like, where's the baller Daredevil's Batman crossover?
Right.
No, instead we got things like Silver Surfer, Darkseid or whatever. Like, we got like a bunch of Galactus Darkseid, I think, crossover. And you're like, no, Thanos versus Darkseid. Why Galactus? Ooh. What are you doing? Like, but you did all these different like cool spin-off books. You got 2 terrible Batman Punisher crossovers. Like, you got a lot of different crossovers. I want to see those again, but with today's artists and writers working on it.
Yeah.
But like, the thing you could do that could Tom Taylor it up is you don't need to try and make it work in continuity, because there's already a world, an Earth, if you will, in the DC multiverse that is if Marvel and DC were in the same planet.
Yeah.
There are multiple books, Batman versus Hulk, Teen Titans, X-Men, and all the Daredevil Batman stories, and Batman Spider-Man, actually, as well. Both those crossovers, which are excellent. All those take place on the same Earth, which is if Marvel and DC were the same planet, and they all existed. And like, basically, all the same stuff still happens. It's just that everyone who was in DC in a Marvel event was busy, and everyone in Marvel for a DC event was busy. Mm-hmm. So, it's like Maximum Carnage still happened, and they just didn't call Batman.
Right.
So you could have Tom Taylor go like, I'm going to turn this Earth upside down and just tell you, like, and just do a DC Marvel crossover. It's in its own universe over there, and it's got everyone in it, and for all intents and purposes, it's all the characters you know, but I'm going to kill people, I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing. Like, I'm going to change things, and it won't affect anyone else's publishing line.
Right. And you know what? To throw in another twist there, it's dark multiverse of that Earth.
Oh my God. A dark multiverse of the DC Marvel Earth would be nuts.
That would be, like, there's just so much you could do. And, oh my gosh. Because that is the nice thing, I haven't read a lot of the older comics, so I don't know for sure.
Sure, that's fair.
But I feel like as time has been going on, comics, the writers are like, you know what? I can push the envelope a bit. I can do something so vulgar or violent, and people are going to be okay with it. I'm not going to have to censor something. And I feel like that would just open so many doors if they did a dark multiverse of the event or Marvel and DC Earth. That would be fantastic.
I mean, just look at like Deceased being this like really, really well executed gross thing. Mm-hmm. And on the other flip side, the Marvel Zombies being a really, really well executed gross thing. Like, they're both literally just DC and Marvel zombies, but doing something totally radically different and also equally macabre and interesting. Like,
right.
That's really cool. Like, and what's more, you could practically create a separate publishing line out of all of it. Like, you could do Dark Multiverse DC Marvel, and also all the crossovers, and also a main event to tie it all together, and also, like, you could have, like, Tempest Fugonaut and The Watcher, like, fight or introduce each story. Like, you could do so many things with all this stuff if you just give them the green light and let them play with it. Because there's no one working for either respective company that doesn't have that idea already. Like, literally, Bendis wrote a Batman Daredevil crossover 15 years ago.
Right.
It's already in a drawer. Like, it's ready to go. Like, who doesn't want to see that?
Yeah.
Because we're not talking about like the Bendis who's writing Superman or the Bendis who had to write Civil War II. We're talking about Prime Bendis. We're talking about the same year he created Jessica Jones. He also wrote this Batman Daredevil crossover. You tell me you don't want to read that? Come on.
Yeah, I'm not even the biggest Daredevil fan, and I would read that.
Exactly. How could you not? I mean, like, I love both those characters, so that's all I want. But, like, at the same time, there's a lot more. Like, wouldn't you love to see, I don't know, like, the stories write themselves, even if I couldn't come up with one right off the fly. But, like, you know, I'm just trying to think of, like, the new characters that would be interesting to see. Like, what about Jaime Reyes meeting Kamala Khan? Like, there's a lot of stuff that we haven't had a chance to do.
Yeah. Like, off the top of my head, I can't think of any good
I mean, the Immortal Hulk,
either.
just dealing with Marvel is a great idea.
Yeah. The Hulk in just anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the Hulk, so
Right.
I'm a little biased there.
Well, I would love to see a rematch between those two.
Yes, I want to see an actual fight between Superman and the Hulk.
There is another one. They did, during that terrible era, they did a Superman Hulk book. It's a one-shot. It is set, I think, on this Earth where like they're both the same universe. Mm-hmm. And it's like Superman. It's literally like 1960s Hulk and 1960s Superman crossing over. So it's like it's in the desert. It's savage, dumb Hulk versus like everyman, superhero Superman. I have it. I can't give it to you, but look it up. But
I'll definitely, I'll check that out.
It's got General Ross and General Lane. Like, it's got a lot of neat like parallels, and and it's pretty good. Like, that's like the closest thing you can get so far.
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah. That might be what you're looking. That might scratch the itch you're looking for. But I mean, like, I don't think we can get bigger than DC and Marvel secretly crossing over and just dropping it on us one day. Because by the way, everything's quiet and everything's like lame and quiet right now. Like, this would have been the time to do it.
Yeah.
Like, by the way, boom.
Plus, we've also got Perpetua messing with the multiverse. Like, you've got the material right there. Like, you've got the potential and the opportunity that people wouldn't go, wait, you're throwing in this random person that can affect the entire multiverse? Like, what's going on? No, it's existing.
And Grant Morrison himself believes that Marvel's on the other side of the source wall. And you're telling me you broke the source wall? You're not going to have Silver Surfer fly through that thing? Come on.
God, it'd be so good.
I got even better. I think it literally blew up at this point. But wouldn't it have been really cool at the end of the Justice League run where they beat Perpetua or whatever, and the source wall still has that hole in it, and then Galactus's fingers just reach into the hole and then just like blow it open?
Oh my God! Stop teasing me with these, Sal.
Any of these artists that work in today, like, oh, I'd love to see that. Come on. Mm-hmm. But I don't think we can get bigger than that. So let's. I think we should wrap things up.
Yes, definitely.
So we want to thank you all so much for hanging out with us and watching this episode of Absolute Comics. Dan, I think you were an incredible host. I'm lucky to have you. Thank you so much for being here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was a lot more fun and less stressful and nervous than I thought I was going to be.
Yeah, man. No, you got this. You've been doing this for a long time. Don't forget. Like you've been working at this stuff for a while now.
Yeah. It's great. I was actually just saying to Benny, this year, it's been 5 years since I've been part of Comicstorian.
Wow.
It's insane.
Can you believe that? Like, that's longer than you were in high school. That's nuts.
Oh my gosh. I never even considered it that way. And yet it feels like just 1 year of high school because that just took
one
forever.
Crazy year. Yeah. No, I feel like I went to high school for 7 years. But yeah, man, we gotta do this again sometime. And in the meantime, don't forget to come by, be here, check out Absolute Comics every Tuesday at around 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll do it up here on twitch.tv/comicstorian. Otherwise, you can always check us out here on YouTube over on the former Weekly Pull channel, because it's not the Weekly Pull, it's Absolute Comics. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody.
Bye, guys.